price they want. That means it's only affordable for one hop. So Habitat builds it, sells it to one family for $60,000. That's great, the family has a $60,000 house. But then the next housing boom hits, or this housing boom hits, and that family sells a $60,000 house for $200,000. It's great for the first family because they got a $60,000. The second family had to pay $200,000 for it, so it wasn't affordable for the family. I'd rather be affordable long term. But worse still with Habitat is that when the family sells the house from $60,000 to $200,000, the family is not allowed to keep the profit. They only get to keep 3% increments. So that if they buy a house 1 year for $60,000, and 5 years later they sell it for $200,000, the family gets to keep $65,000, so they pay off the $60,000 and keep $5,000. Habitat gets the rest of the money. So it has all of the negative impacts in that it's not long-term affordable, and it moves towards the ownership rather than having long-term affordable, long-term rental. But even to the extent that it has the ownership in the worst possible way, because you get the burden of ownership, but you don't get any of the benefits of ownership in the sense that when you sell it later, that family gets wealthy, gets its wealth. It doesn't even allow families to gain wealth off of that. So I think the model is poor in that respect. So I think Habitat should be, other organizations, doesn't have to be Habitat, because I do think there's a place for programs like that. But to the extent those programs exist, I think there should also be programs that focus on long-term rentals and long-term affordability. And if there are programs that do sell their homes to low-income families, then those programs should allow at least the family to build wealth from that, not take their wealth from them. You know, it's gone with the wealth from them.
Okay. You had a question before.
Yes.
Yes.
This is my first time with the group. Thank you, Max, for contributing to the healthy discussion. And I guess just as we think about this topic, I just wanted to challenge us a little bit to not think about banks owning homes, but thinking about who are banks owned by. Yes, they're run by employees who may be overpaid for what they do, but they're owned by pension funds and university endowments and life insurance companies that cover all of our life insurance and the life insurance of average employees. And so the return that the banks are really working to generate is really being, majority of that is being passed through to these individuals so that they're able to retire. And when you look at even landowners and property owners and apartment owners, much of those people are ultimately, the institution is owned by these funds and who work to construct a property, take that investment risk, hire people to staff the property, hire people to maintain the property, and there's an appropriate return, modest return, but that's appropriate to be generated to be passed on as a dividend to those shareholders, so all of us can, or people with a pension can retire and our life insurance will be funded. And I just want to add that dynamic to the conversation that the bank isn't an entity of a CEO making $500,000. It's a group of individuals who put their money into a pension fund, who then go and invest that money into the larger institution and look for a return on that capital.
And then one final question. We're going to really wrap it up.
It doesn't make me feel any better thinking that a bank is owned by a fund. I don't even know what a fund,
A fund?
pile of money. I know what a fund is. Saying to think that a bank is owned by a pile of money doesn't help the situation. But more importantly, banks like Citibank, which are funded by these funds, have been foreclosing on the people who have been putting money in those funds. So people have been, in a perverse sense, paying for their own eviction process by putting money into these funds, losing it because of these predatory practices, which the bank is doing, that the people who are putting money into funds have no idea about, don't know anything. So to call them owners of it, I think is of course, it's goes into what the popular lexicon is about what ownership is, but they're not owners in any real sense of the term at all, and don't have any kind of control that you would think of when you think of the term owner over the banks. And the ones who really have control over the banks are taking advantage of the people who put the money into that fund. I don't think that teachers and firemen and people like that who put money into these funds are owners of Citibank and Bank of America in any common sense use of the term.
Final question right there.
Yeah, I don't know how to really start, because you take one little piece of the puzzle, but when we leave all the socioeconomic situation, all the healthcare situation, education, properties, work, all that is one thing that interconnects with each other, right? So taking one little piece, like the ownership of the land, is is not a solution, really. You have to take a global solution to the whole thing in order to change something. And by the way, I think that for many, many years, the people who says, oh, well, I don't want to be a politician. Well, if the politician has such a bad rap, it's what they say. They are not bad people. The good people is the one that doesn't talk, and that's why the bad people are where they are. So that's our responsibility too. Now, I worked for many, many years in affordable housing